Hello everyone and welcome to the Consumer Friend podcast. Thank you all for listening. At Consumer Friend, we aim to highlight the importance of knowing their rights when purchasing goods, service or digital content, and this website can teach you just that. Our podcast not only looks at consumer rights but also retrofitting your home, and the last one on consumer vulnerability has broken our download record. Thank you very much everyone. So before we get into today's podcast, I've got a bit of a plea. If you are enjoying these series of podcasts, can I please ask that you rate, review and subscribe on whatever platform you listen to. We want to get our free advice out to as many people as possible, and little things like that can really help the show move up the charts and reach more people. Please help us in this consumer education movement. So today is a follow-on from our podcast about 4 weeks ago, in that we spoke about getting an energy performance certificate done in your home, find out where your energy leaks are and look to shore up and plug those holes, all the while considering that there is adequate ventilation in your home. And again, joining us for this fun journey of solar panels and battery storage is my mate, Louise Baxter. Hey Lou, how are you?
I'm all right, thank you, Matt. How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you.
Excellent.
So now we've had an EPC done. So we've kind of followed our podcast from 4 weeks ago. We've had our EPC done and we've taken that fabric first approach to increase the energy performance of our home. This is the first kind of part of the whole house approach. The next phase is setting up a plan for the new technology that can be put into your home to decrease the amount of carbon dioxide it produces and decrease your energy bills, of course, that kind of nice important thing.
Which is obviously all we're hearing about in the news at the moment. Obviously, all we're hearing about is decreasing our energy bills and actually energy prices going up. So this is really important right now. And I'm learning loads.
Good.
I am. I like to learn, Adam.
So I think it's probably fair to say that me and Louise, are not the experts here when it comes to this. So we've drafted one in. Faisal Hussain, Heist Chief Executive. So hello, Faisal, how are you?
Hello, both of you. Thank you very much for having me today. I'm really good, thank you.
Good. Do you want to give us a bit of a background or a bit of information on what Heist do?
Yeah, so HICE is a consumer code within the renewable sector, and we are a Chartered Trading Standards Institute consumer code. And essentially what that means is we have a network of installers across the country who are members of our scheme. And if you as a consumer use one of our members, you will have and receive certain protection mechanisms in place, but also you know that the installer has been vetted and that they follow a code of practice.
Great, thank you very much. And so what trends are you seeing from kind of the consumers at the moment?
The biggest trend that we're seeing at the moment is all about how to become energy independent and, more importantly, how to reduce your energy bills. And the top two products, if you like, that we are receiving inquiries about are solar panels and battery storage. By far and away, them two are the most popular products because they work hand in hand.
Can I ask a question, as always? Can you tell me what energy independent means? So what does that mean to the average person?
So energy independent is basically you do not need to receive any type of energy from the grid. So you are generating your own energy and you are consuming your own energy. And that's what that means. And now it's very difficult for a consumer who has a gas boiler, for example, to become energy independent when it comes to gas, because obviously there's no replacement. So they have to look at electrifying or having a heating system which is based on electric. In terms of your electricity, and that's the biggest trend that we are seeing at the moment, is people want to reduce their energy bills, and electricity has gone up massively over the last 12 to 18 months. And people want to generate their own electricity and consume it in their home.
Basically, we're old school, living off the land.
Yeah.
Living off the land. Right, excellent. I get that now.
So do you foresee like a time, so energy independence means that people are not using gas at all in their homes?
That could potentially be the case. And that's what the government really are looking towards by 2050, is homes not using gas to heat, to do any heating or hot water. That's the whole premise behind what we're trying to do. Obviously, what the government is trying to do with the 2050 net zero target. Now, the government also pledged that by 2028 there'll be, I think, 600,000 heat pumps installed per year. Now, we are a long way off that, but it's got to be a transitional phase where you as a person, if you're on a gas boiler, and I focus on gas boilers because millions of us have gas boilers in our homes, you will need to actually look and go, what do I need to do to potentially move away from a gas boiler? And also, how can the government incentivize you or somebody else incentivize you to move away from a gas boiler? So to give you an example, I purchased a gas boiler 3 years ago, and it was a very much an emergency purchase because my existing gas boiler had just...
And they're not cheap either, are they? They're not cheap.
No, they're not cheap, no. And, and I've got a 10-year warranty on my boilers. So technically speaking, I've got another 7 years left on my warranty. So if somebody was saying to me, you need to change your boiler within them 7 years, why would I realistically do that? Because I've still got 7 years on my warranty in case my boiler goes. So there's different considerations that us as people living in homes will need to make over the next number of years.
Also, one of the things that it comes to my mind straight away is, whilst older people aren't vulnerable because they're older, their circumstances, what we see sometimes with older people is that they don't always like to enter into new markets. They like to stick with what they know. So this, for older consumers who potentially, what is the stat, something like 47% of over 75s don't have Wi-Fi in their own homes. So actually getting the right information and understanding what this means to not have a gas boiler we could end up having a lot of people excluded from this market, not understanding or not even knowing about that. I mean, the government targets, how many normal average consumers do you think know about these government targets?
My view would be very little. I mean, when I speak to my family and friends about government targets and what is going to happen over the next 10 to 15, 20 years, they are none the wiser and they don't really understand it.
No, so what's happening to make them understand it? Is there anything happening to make people understand?
Well, I think right now, organisations like yourself have got a very, very important role to play, because you have to provide consumers with the correct jargon-free advice of what they need to be doing. So it's really good that organisations like Consumer Friend exist, and that's a great name, Consumer Friend, because you really do need a friend to actually help you navigate
That's all me.
this.
I'm taking the credit for that one. That was all me. Also, no pressure, Adam. You've got to save the planet by 2028 and then 2050. All right, there's no pressure at all.
I'm definitely up for that.
Well, if you think about it this way, Louise, if you take, for example, yourself, your Consumer Friend, because you're looking at solar panels and battery, was me. So you asked me for advice.
Yep.
And I tried to give you jargon-free advice. And everyone in the UK and around the world will probably need a Consumer Friend.
And also, it sort of we I'd say stumbled across you by chance, but in that space. But actually, it was really difficult, even as somebody that understands regulation, understands trading standards law, understands that stuff, to be able to research and find out what you need in this space. It's really quite a difficult space with quite a lot of jargon to understand what you need for your house, and are you getting the right thing and all of those things, and actually is it going to save me money, and why am I doing it? Am I doing it because I've been told? Am I doing it because it's faddy? What reasons? So whilst the government target's there, what are you seeing in relation to consumer behaviour? Why are people doing this? Why do people want solar panels or heat pumps or batteries?
The ultimate reasons for people wanting solar panels is they want to reduce their electricity bills. That is the ultimate factor at the moment. And that's why we have seen such a surge in the number of consumers who are inquiring about solar panels, wanting to buy solar panels, are buying solar panels because they just want to reduce their electricity bills. Now, generally speaking, we have consumers who will basically say to us and say, we want to buy solar panels because we want to reduce our electricity bills. And then you ask them and you say, well, how much do you want to reduce your electricity bills by? 90%. Well, that's not going to happen. And then when you explain to them the reasons why, because solar panels generate most of the electricity between March and September, about 80%. The other 20% is generated between October and February. So between October and February, you will still be buying from the grid, if you like, or buying from your energy provider electricity because your solar panels are not generating enough electricity for you to use. That's why when I speak to consumers, I introduce battery storage, because battery storage may be able to help you in the winter months. Because, and again, not to actually use jargon busting phrases, but there's something called force charge. So you can potentially have a type of energy tariff with an energy provider where you can charge your battery at 2 o'clock in the morning for pennies and then use that during the day. So that's where the battery comes in to help you use your electricity from your solar panels in the evening, but also during the winter months, you can potentially charge it at 2 o'clock in the morning and use it during the day.
Okay, so question as well. So some of the stuff around solar panels, doesn't it also, so the amount of energy you can produce depends on how big your roof is and which way your house faces, is that correct?
Yes. So the house facing is quite an interesting one, because if you stand out, what I say to people is, if you stand outside your house at 2 o'clock in the morning, where is the sun hitting you? Is because you're standing outside your house, either front or back, and behind you is generally a roof. So is the sun hitting you in your face directly, or is it on the left or on the right of you? And essentially, we all know that the sun rises from the east and sets on the west. So
do you know what? I'm not sure everybody knows that. I don't know everybody knows that, which again, if you think so, the average reading age of a UK consumer is 12. So I try and judge this for my 9-year-old and my 12-year-old, and I ask them these questions, and they're like, "No." I'm like, "Okay, we need to take it back a notch again. We need to strip it back."
Okay. Yeah. So essentially, the south facing is really important, because if your solar panels are fitted on your roof, which is north facing, then your solar panels will not receive or have enough visual elements, not visual elements.
Enough juice, so they're not getting enough. They're not getting enough exposure to the sun.
Exposure, that's the word.
Exposure to the sun.
Yeah. So if your panels are on the north side of your roof, then you're not going to get enough exposure to the sun. Therefore, your solar panels will not generate, or will generate, only 40 to 50% of their capacity. That's why it's really important that your solar panels are basically fitted between generally east and west. So anything between east and west, it's really, really good.
So are there houses that can't have solar panels at all because their roofs face the wrong way?
No.
So all houses, so everybody can have solar panels as long as their roof is big enough?
Yeah, all houses, yeah. I believe that, because unless you've got a house which is a flat roof and for structural reasons you can't have solar panels on there, then yes. But I believe that all homes should be able to have solar panels on their roof.
Okay, so if I was looking to get solar panels on my roof, what would I do? What would be the first thing that I would do? How would I go about finding the right person to do that for me?
I would actually go back and say the first thing you've got to do is look at your electricity bills and have a look and see how much you are consuming per year on your electricity. So that is your annual electricity consumption, which is generally on your bill. So that's the first step that you have to do. The second step is you need to know your unit rate of electricity, again, that's from your bill. And then your third thing that you should be doing is actually doing some research yourself, understanding solar panels yourself, or trying to understand.
Which is where we come to the website.
Exactly. And then you look for accredited and vetted solar panel installers, but in particular, solar panel installers who are a member of a consumer code. So HICE is a consumer code, so I'm not plugging ourselves, and we've got obviously REC, who are another consumer code as well, because what that means for you as a consumer is that you're using an installer who's gone through a code of practice and who is monitored, and especially when it concerns HICE, is that we do an auditing and monitoring regime with our members to make sure they're complying with our code of practice.
Which brings us...
That wasn't a plug.
Yeah, which brings us back to previous work that we've done around how to get a good trader, which is obviously when we had guests from Trustmark come on to talk to us. We had Ben from Trustmark to talk to us about that. Because we have seen a few trends in relation to some consumers not getting the best deal, or rogue traders exploiting obviously the agendas in relation to green energy. And I can probably safely say that's probably going to go up. We're going to see some people taking advantage of that situation. So using a vetted trader that's been checked out is more important than ever.
Very important. And like you said, Louise, this is a bit of a gold mine right now for any rogue trader who wants to come in and make some really quick money for solar panels or battery and then leave the market again. We saw that when it was the feed-in tariffs many years ago, and we had a similar situation. Now we have a situation where consumers some of them are even desperate, I would say, to reduce their energy bills. And so if somebody comes and knocks on your door and says, you're paying £800 a year on your electricity, and I can reduce that to £100, you're going to listen.
Yeah, this is the problem. And
you're going to say,
yeah, absolutely.
The first thing we need to look at as well is how you debunk and de-jargon your gas and electricity bill. I had my energy summaries come through today, and whilst it's a letter, I still don't understand it. Don't know whether I'm getting a good deal or not. But that's for maybe another podcast ad.
Maybe that is for another one, yeah.
That'll be fun, won't it? We're so fun at parties, talking about how you debunk your gas and electricity bill.
How much electricity I'm using? I don't know.
Well, I can tell you that a few years ago, I worked with about 5 or 6 staff members at the time, and we saved approximately collectively about £1,500 in 1 year. And what we basically did was I helped them switch all their gas and electricity providers. I helped them switch it all. Obviously, right now it's a little bit difficult, but again, just on the gas and electricity, I spoke to a lot of my colleagues and they didn't even know how to switch.
Okay, perfect. So I think that's kind of solar panels done. I think the other thing that I kind of wanted to talk about, I mean, I know we want to kind of bring in your invoice or your quote for your solar panels at some point. But I think what I also wanted to talk about was heat pumps. Now, I don't really understand about heat pumps. We are currently writing some information to be put onto the website around heat pumps, and that should be there in at the same time as this podcast. But I found it really confusing. I think I found like 8 different types of heat pumps. So air source, ground source, hybrid, air to air, water source, solar assisted, all those kind of things. And I was like, I don't understand what all this is. Is there a way that you could maybe simplify what an actual heat pump is?
The easiest answer to that is don't look at what type of heat pump it is, because you have to be very careful, and you have to think of it as, what do I actually want? And I want to heat my home and hot water. So the type of heat pump, it's relevant for the installer, but for you as a consumer to try and to understand what a hybrid heat pump is and what a cascade system is, it's very, very difficult. Yeah. And the main thing is you've got to look at what you're trying to do. I'm trying to heat my home and heat my hot water and potentially decarbonize as well. And when I say decarbonize, make my home more carbon friendly and reduce my carbon footprint. And that's what you should be looking at. And you've got 2 main types of heat pumps. You've got a ground source heat pump, which basically, if you have a large house and you have quite a bit of land, then a ground source heat pump could be more relevant to you. 80 to 85% of the time, it's what you call an air source heat pump. So it'll be a unit outside your home. Potentially, you might have a unit inside your home, but most of the time, you'll have a unit outside your home, maybe in the back of your garden, and it takes the air in, and it uses that air to provide you with hot water and heating in a very simplistic way.
Well, that simplifies it. Also, I think sort of my takeaway from a lot of this is, whilst it would be nice to understand all of the details of all of these different things that you can have done to your house, actually you don't need to if you use a good reputable trader, because they will be the experts. You just need someone to ensure that they've been checked properly, vetted properly, and they will then give you the correct advice and information, and you can trust what they're doing in your space, because we can't all be experts in this. I certainly have not got capacity to learn any more stuff.
Well, I mean, you called me an expert right at the beginning, and my viewpoint would be is I'm not even an expert. I'm learning every single day, but I'm in the market itself, and every day something new happens where you've got to learn about it. Now, as a consumer, you're right, you need to actually trust the installer. So what I always say to a consumer is, always get 2 to 3 quotes. Get 2 to 3 quotes, have a look at them, because when you're buying solar panels, heat pump, or battery storage, or a combination of 3, you will always have the price, you will always have facts and figures in terms of savings and what you can reduce in terms of your energy bills. And with that, if you look at all 3 and you say, actually, all 3 of them are on a par with what they are quoting me in terms of the savings, then it's probably going to be right. But if there's massive disparities, then you need to seek potentially some independent advice. Now, what we did at Heiss was we launched a renewable energy advice service. And we launched that last year because of consumers wanting advice and asking us questions like, well, if I have solar panels, battery storage, and heat pump installed, will I have 0 energy bills? And that's not the case. And what we do is we provide them with that independent advice. We have nothing to gain from it. We're just going to give them independent advice, and hopefully the correct advice, where they can make a much more informed decision rather than somebody thinking, I think this is the right decision, let's go for a punt. Because solar panels, battery and heat pumps, not cheap.
Okay,
you're not buying something from a shop.
So whilst we're going to come to the end of the podcast in relation to this, how do I access that service? So if I want advice, obviously I know you now, and I could just call you directly. But if I'm a consumer and I'm listening to this podcast and I want advice on this, how do I access your advice line?
So you can call us direct on 034432454242. You can go to our website, which is highscheme.org.uk, and on the website you can just click on our link for contact us, and you can just basically contact us, or you can drop us an email at info@highscheme.org.uk and say, I'd like some advice, please.
That's great, and I think I'll put the links to that on the podcast notes, so as well. So you should be able to see the podcast notes and be able to contact Heiss that way. That is fantastic. Louise, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Not, there will be, but that will be probably for another podcast. I've got lots of questions in my head, but not for today.
I've got a feeling we might be doing a Retrofit 3 podcast. Oh. I think there's so much information around this stuff that we need to get it out there. But I think we might have run out of time for today. We
have. And I just think for me, the takeaway, like we've said, is just to ensure there are experts out there, but make sure that you're using the right expert, and an expert that is going to give you true information, which is the same that we've talked about when you're getting anything done in your house.
Yeah, I completely agree. Faisal, thank you very much for today. That was really fantastic, really insightful. And thank you everyone for listening. Again, our information on retrofitting is available on our Consumer Friend website. There is also some other great information out there. Trustmark, Heiss. I think Energy Savings Trust is somewhere where I've gone for a lot of information as well. So really good. Thank you very much for today, Faisal. Thank you.
Thank you both. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming on. I've learned a lot again. This is good, isn't it?
Thank you and goodbye.